Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Superkickin with Stephen and Greg right here with your favorite host, Stephen A. 1181. Greg is on location elsewhere, but I am here kind of do the dirty work and the gritty work of an interview. So there we go, our third interview ever for Superkickin with Stephen and Greg. So we are so happy to have him here. Met him over the weekend. I met him last year, I believe, as well at Squared Circle Expo, which is a fantastic expo. I can't say enough about it. I said a lot over the weekend. Definitely be in touch with them about Squared Circle Expo 4, which they've already announced already. So we got the pleasure of having Erik Hodson, who I've had the pleasure of buying some artwork off of, a very good comic book looking esque wrestling artwork. So Erik, thank you so much for having or for being on here. How's your evening going and how's your day going so far?
Day's going pretty good. I'm here in the studio working. I've got several comic book projects in the works and a few new wrestling pieces in the planning stages. So, yeah, that's my day today.
That is awesome. And of course, at Squared Circle Expo, it's just a fantastic event, isn't it?
Absolutely. They have really put together a really good show. I do a lot of events throughout the year, and I think Squared Circle Expo is the closest to the magic that you felt from that very first Starcast.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, they're doing such a good job with the accessibility of the talent, keeping it a pretty chill, low key event. You know, it's not something where you've got to jump through a lot of hoops just to get into the door and to get started. Mm-hmm. Everybody's just like a giant family. You see friends every year, the same people coming in, and yeah, and they've done a really good job booking that show too. Let me tell you, there was 2 wrestling events this time. Both of them were tremendous.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think the talent, just the different names, and like I've looked at just getting everybody from MJF, Kurt Angle, all the way down to legends like Demolition, Tatanka. I mean, I'll be honest, I never see Tatanka listed for many of Comic Cons or any sort of conventions. So they almost, and of course they had both the Bushwhackers scheduled. One unfortunately passed away right before, and it was going to be one of his first few conventions he's ever done. So that would have been really awesome to see. But yeah, not enough can be said about it. But let's kind of get into your life. Where did you get started with this artwork? Has this been something you've always wanted to do, or were you on another path? Just kind of give us your history, if you will, and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, I've always wanted to work in comics, and I went through college and just kind of wanted to do the same thing. Did a lot of illustration work, did a little bit of graphic design after that, but I really just wanted to make comics, and so that's kind of my path. And one of the things that I noticed is that in order to get traction, I had to get people's eyes on my work. Mm-hmm. So I started doing the fan art thing, which a lot of artists do. You create your own version of whatever is popular at the time, put your own spin on it. And that starts to get you some eyeballs because people in the general public, they need that familiarity. Mm-hmm. So Bret Hart was coming to town, my hometown here in Detroit. He was at the Motor City Comic Con. I believe this was 2011 or 2012, somewhere around in there. And I wanted to do something special. Mm-hmm. And I had always thought of comics and wrestling going hand in hand. Like wrestling was a live action comic book. Mm-hmm. You got good guys and bad guys and special powers and all of these things. They all just fall in line with, what you would think of in like a superhero comic. So it didn't take long for my brain to think about, okay, well, what if I did like vintage comic covers with wrestlers? What would be a good one for Bret Hart? The Hitman, Punisher, first appearance of Punisher, Spider-Man 129. And so that was the first one, and it just took off like wildfire. I found myself having my own little niche of homage parody art that the fans couldn't get enough of, like landslide of different suggestions. And so I started doing it on a regular basis. I got hooked in with Conrad and Starcast, started doing exclusives for them. Okay. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And now there's pretty near 100 different designs, I think, that I've done since I started. And with wrestling, you never run out of material. So
exactly. And it's funny you mentioned the comic book and wrestling aspect. I think it's always interesting to me, as are you, I guess I should backtrack for a second. Are you a big wrestling fan? Or did you
absolutely
become a fan because of this?
Yeah, some of my earliest memories, like I grew up in the sticks in Missouri,
Okay.
and so the only way I could see wrestling is my dad and I would go rent the VHS tapes from our video store.
Mm-hmm.
So we would watch, we'd go rent WrestleMania,
Yep.
SummerSlam, all that
Royal
stuff.
Rumble. Yep.
Never had cable growing up, so those were my very first formative things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember when Royal Rumble came out on the Super Nintendo, that was like one of my favorite games. I played that to death.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
just kind of carried on, started college, got into the Attitude Era,
Mm-hmm.
playing WrestleMania 2000 on the
Of
N64 and
course.
all
Yep.
that. And really enjoyed watching, The Rock and Stone Cold and all that. And just kind of kept with it as it went on. And I fell away for a little while, but, started coming back once things started getting, I guess, to me, a little more interesting. And a lot of the independent stuff started to really pop up. And then suddenly we had AEW
Which
coming on the
opened
scene.
up a
And
whole
it's
nother
just like a
pathway.
new golden age of wrestling here.
Mhm. And all this stuff is helping the independent scene by
Yeah.
default. I mean, it's poaching them a little bit, but it's also I think it's giving a goal. You know, you don't have to just go to WWE. You can go
No,
to
no.
AW, or you could be look at Mike Cardona right now. He's making a killing on the independent scene. Now, granted, he had that leeway of, he has that star power at first, but he's
Absolutely.
creating a whole new person. I mean, this is not the same. I mean, I hate to call him out, but I met him years ago at an Access, and it wasn't the expectation I had. But meeting him now at just this past weekend, totally different experience.
Yeah,
You can
he's
just
totally he's
tell.
totally crushing it. And there's a lot of really great guys like some of that roster last night. You can see that okay, they're getting their start here, and maybe they're just working this little territory.
Mhm.
But eventually they're going to be big somewhere, and it could be NWA, it could be AEW, it could be WWE,
Mhm.
ROH, any of those places to end up on television. But
There's so much,
they're
and
superstars in the making.
or even just I mean, YouTube is a big outlet now. You can get
Yeah,
enough hits on YouTube and be somebody, or TikTok. You could just have a quick 30-second video of yourself. That can get many hits. So, um, yeah.
yeah. Oh,
So
I forget his name, but he's really big on TikTok right now. Making fun of the leg slap stuff.
there is a guy. Yes, that is some. I can't remember his name either, but there
Yeah,
is
no, he,
somebody.
he he actually wrestled. He wrestled in one of those matches in the squared
Okay.
circle match. And
Somebody shared with me the pizza guy, which he showed up on AW Dynamite, I believe, a few months back. But he's just a pizza. He's a pizza character. So I think that's also. I was going to go back to that idea that it's always fun to me when people bring up, well, wrestling's fake, but then you bring up comic books, and I'm like, comics are fake. Marvel movies are fake.
yeah, I mean,
Game of
it's
Thrones is fake. So
a wonderful choreographed stage production that is just out of this world. Awesome storytelling, drama. I always tell people when people come at me with like this poo poo on wrestling, I always tell them, look, a professional wrestler has to have every job in the entertainment industry in order to be successful. You got to be good on the mic. You got to be good on the mat. You got to be a stunt man. You got to be a comedian. You got to be, a high level. There's
you
all
gotta
these
have
jobs in
you have to
entertainment.
have skill, athletic skill too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the hits still hurt. You've got to have some sort of resilience to that, and be aerobic, be training.
Mhm.
These guys work harder than most people in other businesses in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, like I mean, you've heard about the Ric Flair going upstairs and going till he's puking. Like, I bet half these people that talk bad about it. I mean, I'm gonna admit it. I probably couldn't do half of what. I don't think I could get through a
Oh,
cardio that they do.
heck
I
no,
mean, they
heck
have to
no.
in NXT. They talked about the early days of FCW, that warehouse that was just a steam kit, a steam sauna, and
Hmm.
trash kids nearby just because your burpees, your push-ups, your sit-ups, your running in place, your whatever squats until you couldn't take it anymore. So it's just interesting. I don't even try to entertain it anymore. I'm just like, okay, yeah, whatever. You think it is what it is. I mean, it just sold for $9 billion in WWE side of things, so it must be doing something right. I mean, Vince McMahon buys it on $1 million, you know, from his dad, and then sells it for $9 billion with the
That's
V.
incredible.
So Just to think of the outreach of and to go beyond the ring. I mean, I always tell people it's all about the person. Now I guess I would ask you, what do you think about the aspect of social media and wrestlers? For you, obviously, it's a great thing, right? Like right now, we were able to connect on social media. 20 years ago, I'd have to get a real life interview with you. So what do you think about the social media aspect and wrestlers, or how has social media been such a boon for you and your comic creating?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's a double-edged sword no matter what you look at, because then you've got you have access now to people that you didn't have access, like you were mentioning before. So it's easy for me to create a piece. Like a great story from WrestleCade. I did a piece with Aubrey Edwards because she was going to be signing down at WrestleCade last November.
Yep.
And I found a really cool reference for a Fantastic Four cover where the character's hand is coming up and breaking the Fantastic Four logo. Mm-hmm. So the piece I did of her was doing the 2 count, and the 2 counts breaking the logo, and then I've got all these other wrestlers kind of around the ring and stuff. So I posted that and I tagged her on it. And then when I met her, she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's you!" And she gave me this giant hug and just like really loved the piece. And that's another thing is like with wrestlers, they're some of the most professional people in the business of entertainment.
Yeah.
They know how to. They've been blue collar for so long that it sticks with them, and they know how to treat their customers. They know how to treat their fans, and that I've never had a really bad experience with a wrestler, and as far as a celebrity goes or entertainment goes.
I almost was going to ask that if you've ever had a person, but your stuff is so great. I can't see anybody being, like, "Oh my God, why'd you do that to me?" Like your stuff, you're not disparaging them in any, you know what I mean? Like you're treating them as comic book. And if you think about it, probably half these guys are comic book nerds. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely,
CM Punk, Danhausen. You look at Cardona, Brian Myers. I mean, they were at the expo looking at the toy section, here and there when they weren't, they were taking quick little breaks from signing. So, I mean, I can't imagine anybody being a horrible aspect or, keeps coming up about the airport stuff. And these wrestlers, they're giving up their time at an airport to sign stuff that they probably shouldn't be signing. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, you can tell the difference between who is a genuine fan who just wants to say hi, right place, right time,
exactly,
and someone who's got a carton of stuff for eBay. Mm-hmm. That's pretty easy to tell who's grifting and who's not.
Yeah.
I will say this: the younger kids coming up in the business, they absolutely love it. The older guys, they appreciate it, but they don't, they don't see what's in it for them, I guess, in some aspects. There's a little bit of that, but for the most part, I'd say 99% of the time, it's a positive interaction.
Yeah. Well, and some of them are still trying to earn that last buck, right? I mean,
yeah.
I feel, you looked at like the Sabu situation. I mean, you could tell him walking around. I hate to say he should have been at home.
Yes, he probably should have been at home, definitely.
I mean, you could just tell. I got my picture with him on Friday. And I guess I'm glad I did, but I mean, even then, I was just like, man, you just hate that it's like they're trying to get squeeze that last bit of, money. And until, it's just like the NFL, it's like any athlete. Mm-hmm. Until they can help you a little bit after your career, all these guys, are going to keep milking their startup for us.
That's one of the reasons why with my publisher, Mess Bucket Comics,
okay,
we're trying to create stories that extend the kayfabe a little bit. Like with our first book, Roddy Piper, The Kilted Avenger. Mm-hmm. Piper has already passed, but we worked with Kitty. We worked with Pro Wrestling Tees to do all they handled the licensing and all that.
Okay.
And we did a 52-page comic book with Roddy Piper as a central character, as a talk show host by day, vigilante crime fighter by night, and this just extends his legacy on. The second book that we're doing a follow-up to stars the British Bulldog. Again, he's passed on, but he left a legacy with his family. And his daughter, Georgia, she is a bulldog about making sure her dad is still remembered and still promoted. So we're happy to be working with her and the family for this next book. And then we've got the third one. We've already locked in who it's gonna be. I haven't been given the go ahead yet.
Okay.
But
Well, when you get the go, you know who to break it to first.
absolutely, sure. No problem. But see, that's kind of been my thing, and one of the reasons why I love doing the work that I do is that you're taking the character further and giving them something else for their legacy.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't want to keep coming to these events and signings and stuff because you get too old for that. But there's no reason your character couldn't live on in a comic book.
And that's the biggest thing about wrestling. That you think back to the Ultimate Warrior speech, Monday Night Raw,
oh my gosh,
day before he passed. I mean, it's like he almost knew. Like it's all hindsight, yes, but there's also that part that there was something there that because the next day he's gone. So it's some of those guys I think know their time is coming. Just their heart, especially those older guys like the British Bulldog, like a Bret Hart, like a Roddy Piper who ran the road. I mean, now Bret Hart was always good, I think, about not doing the other aspect that some of these guys did. I think maybe there's stories out there that aren't, but it sounds like he was pretty. He's all about family. Him and Owen, but Roddy I think was a little party goer. It sounded like, or Jake the Snake.
Well, there's a lot of those stories out there, and they get told. I remember I was on the phone with Hacksaw because we were getting his permission to be a cameo in the first book.
Okay. And
he told me Piper's death is the reason why he quit drinking and cleaned up his life.
Yeah, that's good.
He was reflecting on some of the things that he did in his youth and the way he was living. And after Roddy passed, he went cold turkey. He cleaned up. And
they were in that Legends house together, and you could tell the friendship that they really had. Speaking, that's a whole nother story. But man, they need to bring that show back, don't they? That was able to introduce me to Tony Atlas. I had no clue who that guy was. I'll be honest, just because he was a little before my time, before I really got into it. But he was, he's got that hearty laugh. He was there at the Squared Circle Expo.
I believe he was the first black heavyweight champion too.
Yep, he was. So there's a lot of cool stuff they can do there. So, is there anybody that do you always get permission, or has there ever been a person that said, hey, I don't really want you doing, do you get permission beforehand, or do you kind of ask for permission after, or apologize afterwards, as they say? How does that work in that field?
It's never really been a thing. I pretty much just kind of go with wherever I'm, whatever creativity strikes me. I've got some obviously haven't been able to do yet.
Yeah.
Because I put them on the back burner because I give priority to those who are going to be guests at shows.
That makes sense. Okay.
It definitely helps me make some money, and you know what? It helps them because there's people who I've been doing this long enough now. People seek me out. They get my stuff knowing they're going to take it and pay that wrestler to sign it, and they're going to have something that they love hanging on their wall.
And plus, you're doing it such differently. You're not really taking their likeness. So
and one of the things that I try to do is I always go give them a small stack. Say, here it's at your table. You sell it, make some money, go right ahead.
Okay, that's why I wasn't sure. That's awesome. I didn't know you. And you said you've been doing it since 20. When were you able to did you have another life before this?
I was doing other fan art stuff, chasing the trends like a lot of my buddies do. And really it was getting to the point where it's I didn't care. I don't care enough about Batman to keep drawing Batman. It doesn't matter to me. Now, wrestling, I care about. And Japanese animation, I care about. Those are my two wheelhouses.
Okay, cool.
So I focused more on those, and pretty soon they just kind of overwhelmed all the other stuff. And I didn't even have time to pack it or restock it because it didn't matter because it didn't sell. It's not what I was known for. So now, I'll go and set up a show and I'll have a giant anime wall one time. I'll have a giant wrestling wall. And I don't need to do anything else other than that because those two wheelhouses are doing what they need to do. And those are places where I don't get burned out by the subject matter.
Because like you said, there's always new and upcoming, there's going to be newer wrestlers coming up. There's going to be new, anime stuff coming around or or you can take an old anime and reinvent it or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
and I give credit to my agent Dan, who's come on pretty recently here. Is he's been going after getting young talent. We've got a young wrestler. She had us do a piece for her, but now she's wanting an actual comic book to sell at her table.
Awesome.
So that's in the works.
That's awesome.
And there's other things too. Like we might be working with some talent for an upcoming promotion in the summer where we'll actually do a poster, help bring that talent to that show, set them at our table, and go full on there. And they'll have an exclusive there that they're only going to get for that show. So I think it'll be pretty neat to
awesome.
do that.
What conventions, what kind of stuff have you been part of besides the Squared Circle Expo?
Well, obviously StarCast, that's where I probably got my biggest push doing this, doing exclusives for Conrad and company.
Okay.
And so that's been great. WrestleCon has had me out a few times. WrestleCade has had me out a few times.
Awesome.
I haven't made it up to the East Coast to do the big event. I definitely want to do that at least once or twice.
Okay.
I'll always do Squared Circle. It's pretty much in my backyard. It's a short drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like Heroes and Legends.
Yeah,
which is in Fort Wayne and also in Tennessee. I do the Fort Wayne show because it's again close.
Yes.
Jason, he's a good friend of mine. He runs a great promotion. I love those little ones.
Yeah.
I just wish there was more fan hours. Like we do one we did a great one. Dylan Hines runs in Chillicothe, Ohio.
Okay.
Recently, that was a good little show.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of wish some of those where there was wrestling in the evening. They had a little bit longer fan expo type.
Yeah.
Because usually it's like from noon to 4.
Yeah.
And then they have the wrestling, and then everybody goes home. So
yeah, and that's what you kind of notice at the Squared Circle. Like a lot of people are packing up already.
Yeah.
By that 3:30, 4 o'clock time, it must just be a wrestling kind of idea that okay, it's like punk rock time. You come late, but you know when to go. But have you ever entertained the idea of the Chicago Comic-Con? Because that thing is.
Oh yeah, I've been there in the past. I used to do it all the time when it was a Wizard show.
Okay.
A lot of those big shows, I did them pretty hot and heavy earlier on before COVID, and then post COVID, it's just kind of been. I don't really want to put that much money up front.
Okay.
To do that show and then not get it's the smaller shows and the house wrestling shows. I get better ROI and I get better fan interaction.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I've been to the Chicago Con, and I mean that thing is pretty crazy. Like
I've been to C2E2 before and New York Comic Con, and it's just those are just huge investments. And right now where I'm at, I'm trying to be a little bit leaner so that I don't have to keep traveling so much because I'm 45. Yeah. I don't want to be traveling all over the country when I'm 50 because it wears you out.
Yeah. And plus, like you said, it's the idea of making those connections.
Yes.
Those are going to be better down the road because those people are going to keep coming back to you, for what you need. So
with my anime work, I've been doing a lot of exclusives for the voice actors.
Yeah.
So they will contract me to do work for them so they can sign that at their tables.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
I love that. I'm happy in my studio drawing for them. They go do their thing. And
what do you do for fun? Like, what is a break? Because this is kind of fun, right? For you. If you needed a break from all this, what do you do besides watch wrestling? It sounds like.
I'll take myself out to a movie once in a while, or I have a really nice barbecue grill, a Kamado Joe down there. I'll go buy some meat and grill it, and that's a nice little break for me. Kind of like zen.
I know we talked about you put yourself. You're in the, you're in your studio, and you're kind of there, right? You don't leave it. It's probably hard to get out of the moment. You were in that moment. Like, talk about your typical day if you were going to work on something.
Well, I'll come in the morning and sit down. I try to keep normal business hours, and I'll just get lost in the work. I pre-plan my day. I know what I've got when it's due. I've got multiple projects at once. Like, for example, I've got 2 anime pieces to finish up for some voice actors. I have a comic that's going to be launching next month called Little Mermaid. It's a parody on Ariel the Little Mermaid, only she's a mercenary assassin with lots of guns and stuff.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah. So I'm working on pages for that because we're going to be starting the comic on Fund My Comic crowdfunding website in May. So I got to be ready for that. So I've got a schedule that I work on. For example, tomorrow I'll be back to working on the British Bulldog book. So I've got to try to get another page done in a day's time. If I can do 1 page a day for the comic work, I'm good. Then I'll leave Thursdays. I usually use Thursdays to work on my web comic, Dreaded Dinosaur Man.
Yes,
which will be a print comic eventually.
Yep, your web too. Yep.
And so I'll usually use Thursdays for that. And then whenever I can schedule in, I was like, okay, this month I need a new wrestling piece. Let's do it. I've got several ideas. I think the next big one that I'm working on is a new Charlotte Flair piece.
Oh, okay. That's
awesome. So if you follow me on Twitter, one of my buds who follows me on Twitter, he's got a kind of a bigger account, and he posted one day that he really wants me to do this New Mutants cover with Charlotte, and it's the White Queen holding all of her enemies and stuff.
Okay, so you're going to put like Charlotte with a bunch of...
Not a day goes by that tweet doesn't get retweeted or mentioned.
Oh, wow.
So it's constantly reminding me that I need to do that.
And not by other fans, correct? Not just
by other fans, like all the time. It happens all the time.
Okay.
I finally retweeted. It's like, okay, this has been mentioned more than any other tweet
that
I've ever had, so I'm definitely going to do it. I just don't know when.
There, yeah.
So it's got to go on the calendar.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I thank you so much for the time. Where can we find you coming up next? Maybe in person? And if I do have, so on the Superkickin with Steven page, I've listed your link tree. I've put some pieces that I've personally bought, so people can see some of your purchases there. But what is your what's your schedule for maybe the rest of the month of April, and then what is some summer things we can look forward to, and then we'll let you get back to your work because I don't want to take you too long this evening. But I appreciate the time.
Well, April, we're kind of winding down. The Squared Circle was the big push for this month, definitely. I got a couple of little smaller local things here. Yeah. And then May, we have Motor City Comic Con coming up, and that's going to be a huge show. Yeah. June, I believe June 17th, I'm going to be back down in Southern Ohio for a wrestling show down there.
Okay.
And so I'm looking forward to that. And then I've got an anime show again in Ohio, outside of Cincinnati. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then just going through the year. If you frequent any of my social medias, I try to always post where I'm coming next. I haven't been good about it this year, but in years past, I've done great at it. So I'll definitely be updating people. You can check my Instagram, Twitter, or my Facebook page. It's at Dreaded Dinosaur for all of those. And you can always send me a DM. My DMs are open. Give me a suggestion for a new piece, or just say what's up. And then if you want to buy some of these art prints, just go to erikhodson.com and click buy prints. It'll take you to my shopping cart, and you can check out all the designs that are available there.
He's got some great pieces. I mean, like I said, right now I'm looking at I think I have the CM Punk poster. I have the Hangman Adam Page one. I have the Becky Lynch one. I bought the Faces of Foley. The Jericho one. The Jericho one is pretty new, correct?
Yeah, that's fairly new.
Yep. So I got the Jericho one, and then I have one other. Oh, Stone Cold, honestly, because Stone Cold is my. I have a shrine behind me that is all Stone Cold stuff. Erik, it is ridiculous. And my tattoo is, no, it's hard to. It's on my elbow, but anyways, it's Stone Cold getting the stunner, nice. Of course. So it is very awesome. So I thank you so much. Definitely, we'll have you back on as the summer goes on and kind of see. This guy said he wants a John Moxley one on a T-shirt. I don't know who. Unfortunately, it says Facebook user when we do these StreamYard things. So thank you, Facebook user, whoever you are.
I've got to update my John Moxley because the one I have, he's got the
AEW title.
No, he's got the XIC.
Okay.
The New Japan title.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
That was a pain in the butt to draw that title.
But, yeah.
It's got a lot of little flourishes all over the place.
It's your mom. It's my mom. So there you go. We have my mom officially on here. So there you go. That's awesome that my mom is watching this because moms are supportive. So there you go. Hey, mom.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Adjemi, Mrs. A. So there you go. But thank you so much, Erik. And like I said, we will be in touch soon. We'll have you back on maybe in fall, kind of see what you're up to.
Sounds
And
good.
look forward to catching you at a show soon enough. So thank you so much for being on here and good luck with all your work.
Thank you. And hey, if you enjoyed this interview and you're watching it, make sure you smash that like button, click subscribe, do all those things. That'll really help this gentleman keep doing the interviews that he loves to do.
I thank you so much. And we will end it right there. Thank you.